Good morning, everybody. Sorry for the slight delay in starting the meeting. I'm Brian Perry, Democratic Services Manager, and welcome to this morning's meeting of the Scrutiny Committee External. Before we go into the main business of the agenda, I'd advised the committee at the last meeting that the previous convener had resigned and an appointment would be made for a replacement at Council on the 6th of December. So again, for this morning's meeting, can I ask members of the committee to nominate a member to chair this morning's meeting?
Can I nominate Councillor Alf Kelly?
Are members content for Councillor Kelly to take the chair?
Content.
Yes.
Agreed.
Agreed.
Thank you. I'll pass over to Councillor Kelly.
Thank you. Good morning. Welcome to the External Scrutiny Committee. This will be held in a hybrid forum as per Council rules. We have some members and officers in the room and some online. We'll start with any apologies.
I have one apology, convener, from Councillor David Aitchison.
Secondly, I'll read this. Members should declare any financial, non-financial interest they have in any item of business on the meeting, identifying the relevant agenda item and the nature of the interest. Is there any declarations of interest? No, thank you. Item 3, the minute of the Scrutiny Committee held on the 5th of October 2023. Is everybody happy with the minute as read?
Yes, agreed.
Agreed.
Can just add to thanks to the prompt answers from Chief Inspector Lindsay Kidd on naloxone and Area Commander William Pollard on the private fire alarm systems. We got answers back. I think everybody got them, and just thanks to them for the prompt action in that. Right, we move on to item 4, following the public pound services to children and young people by the Director of Children's Services. Sarah, sorry.
Good morning. Good morning.
Oh,
yep.
Morning, Sarah.
Good morning. Thank you. Yep. I'll go ahead and present the cover report. Thank you. The purpose of this report is to provide an update to members regarding the work of the external organisations that receive funding and provide services to children and young people in Falkirk. These organisations fall within the Following the Public Pound reporting and monitoring arrangements, and the reporting period is April 2022 to March 2023. The work of these organisations contribute to the strategic priorities within the Council plan to support stronger, healthier communities and promote opportunities, educational attainment, and to reduce inequalities. Section 3 of the cover report provides background to the Following the Public Pound arrangements. The organisations receiving funding from Children's Services are third sector organisations and NHS Forth Valley. A list of these can be found at section 5, and a corresponding report is provided within appendices. The organisations are funded on the basis that they are able to provide services not readily provided within the Council, and services are complementary to those that we do provide. As part of the process for Following the Public Pound, monitoring officers measure performance for the organisations that they are responsible for. Each monitoring officer has provided for your attention today an overview of the service funded by the Council, and it covers the agreed objectives or the outcomes, performance information, and provides a financial overview. Monitoring is a regular activity over the course of the year. Falkirk Council provides varying levels of funding to the organisations, and the majority of these have been subject to funding reductions in recent years, and resources continue to be subject to review. They each provide services to children and young people and their families and operate in partnership with Children's Services and other agencies. The table at section 5 details funding received by external organisations over the last 2 years. Some of these are national organisations and may have access to other financial resources. The monitoring officers, who are the authors of the reports attached as appendices, are here today and are happy to answer questions that you may have. I refer members to section 2 of the cover report for the recommendations. Thank you.
Thank you, Sarah. Do you have any questions on anything at present? And what we're going to do is go through the appendices one at a time if we just sort of come. So appendix 1 and 2, is there any questions from anyone? No? Appendix 3? No, skim through this. Appendix 4? No questions? Appendix 5? Gordon?
Thank you, Convener. Appendix 5, I think this will be directed to Gail McIntyre. To provide specialist clinical psychology assessment and therapy service for young people and children who are looked after by Falkirk Council, either at home or accommodated away from home, and whose responsibility of Falkirk Council, even when they're living outside the area. Can you tell me, please, approximately how many children and young people this would be living outside the area?
Do you mean accessing the service or in total? Oh.
In total, either.
Either. I would, to be honest, need to come back to confirm that in terms of the number of children looked after away from home. Can certainly provide that information, Councillor.
Okay.
Thank you. Councillor Binney.
Yes, thank you. I've got a question in Appendix 5 regarding the clinical psychology services of looked after children. It says this service does not have a lengthy wait or restrictive criteria. Can you give me indication of the waiting times? I don't think that's actually been mentioned in the report. Also says that one psychologist left in January 23. That's nearly a year later. I think that it mentioned that there was recruitment ongoing in November this year. I'd like to know the impact on the service, if that is the length of time that it's taken, like, to recruit a new psychologist for this service, and the impact on the much needed referrals. Thank you.
Yep, thank you. It has had an impact, because the service has reduced by 50%, so it's meant that there has been some waiting for some young people. It has always, excuse me, the allocations are based on priority need, so those most in need will get a service, and sometimes what they've been doing, the psychologist has been doing, is offering slightly less service but to more children, so that there is some level of service rather than just waiting. In terms of recruitment, that has been out of our hands in terms of the challenges of recruiting psychologists. So it's not been a plan, it's just been unfortunate that we've not been able to recruit up until now. We do have interviews planned next week and hopeful that we'll be able to recruit to that post. So it has definitely had an impact with a reduction in service, but we have been managing that in the interim.
Thank you for that answer. I would just say that is a priority, you know, especially psychology services for looked after children. So hopefully we'll get somebody in place very shortly. Thank you, Gail. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Binney. Councillor Redmond.
I had a question on it was actually Appendix 1, but I wasn't quite ready for it when we went through it, but it was just in Appendix 1, Falkirk Council has provided 159,000 to support 108 families to Aberlour. This target was missed. We ended up only supported, I think it was something about 40. It's here, but so we missed the target. So does this mean that there's funding's been left over, and then we missed it due to staff shortages as well? So what are we doing to kind of address the staff shortages? What's the reasons behind the staff shortages? If we could answer Me too. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you for that question. The reason for the staff shortages was down to staff leaving the Aberlour service and also long-term absence. So Aberlour is a national service. So what they did within that period was to look within staffing across the service in the local area and look to flexibly manage the referrals that were coming into the service at that time. They also offered group opportunities for families rather than individual support. So that meant that some families were supported in a different way to prevent sort of lengthy waiting times for them. And I'm happy to report that they now have recruited staff into posts, so they are feeling more confident about service delivery moving forward.
That's excellent. And just so it was a wee bit quiet there, but I think you covered the staffing point, but they were saying that obviously there was less staff, we done less work, but did that, of the £159,000 in support, obviously with staff we didn't need to pay for a certain amount of time, so is that money rolled over into your reserves for next year? I wouldn't. You can come back for it.
I think, yeah, I mean, that's kind of because the service did try its best to deliver a service to families. It's not a discussion that we have had with the service to date. However, what we are having ongoing discussions is around ongoing service delivery into the next financial year. So I don't have specific information around that at this moment, but I can come back with information if that's helpful.
Yeah, that would be great. Thank you.
Thanks, Laura. Councillor Balfour.
Thanks, Chair. Yeah, just on Appendix 5 again, just a wee bit further information on the points raised by Councillor Binney. What you said you've got interviews coming up soon. Was it next week?
Yes, 1st of December.
Right. So assuming there's a successful candidate, how soon? What's a kind of realistic timescale of getting somebody in post and bringing down the waiting times?
Realistically, recruitment would usually take about 2 to 3 months.
Right. Okay.
So we would continue to manage the gap until then. It might be useful to say as well that sometimes the psychologists take psychology students as well for placements, and that does add some capacity to the service while there's a gap.
Right. Okay. All right. That's fine. Thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you. Next one's Appendix 6. Anyone got any particular questions on Appendix 6? No. Move on to Appendix 7. And Appendix 8. Is that a name? Appendix 9. No questions, thank you. So move on to this. Sorry.
So I think with all the questions in that report, then convener, it just leaves the committee just to agree to approve the report and acknowledge the progress made by the organisations in meeting the council's priorities. The recommendations set out in the report. The committee are happy with that?
Agreed.
Agreed.
Thank you.
Thanks. Yeah. Next is following the public pound poverty and equality by Sally Buchanan.
Yeah, good morning. Thank you very much, convener, and thank you. Good morning, everybody. So the report you have in front of you provides an update on the external organisations funded to support our priority to reduce inequalities. The recommendations and background are similar to the previous report, helpfully covered by Sarah, so I won't go into any detail on those. But drawing your attention to section 3.4, it details the organisations that are covered by this report. LGBT Youth Scotland is funded as part of our equalities duty to advance equality of opportunity for those with protected characteristics, whilst the Citizens Advice, Macmillan Money Matters and the Armed Services Project contribute to our work to tackle poverty. The need for this support is greater now than it has been for many years. And section 3.11 shows that inflation has dropped recently. However, this doesn't mean that prices are actually coming down. It simply means that they're rising at a slower rate than they were a few months ago. And the impact of the rising prices is felt most by those on the lowest incomes, who spend a greater proportion of their income on essentials such as food and fuel. Now, linking back to equalities, we know that certain types of households are more likely to be living on a low income, for example, those living with disabilities. And all of that makes it all the more important that everybody is helped to claim benefits and access support, particularly those with protected characteristics. So the appendices detail the impact of each of these organisations, but section 4.3 highlights the return on investment that the Council gets with this funding. For every £1 that is provided to the Citizens Advice Bureau, over £15 is returned to the local area in increased benefits or reduced costs. And for Macmillan Money Matters, this increases to over £41 for every £1 of council funding. It's trickier to put a definitive value on the impact of LGBT youth and the Armed Services Project, but it is clear that all 4 projects provide early intervention, reducing future crises such as unemployment, mental ill health and homelessness, all of which in turn then impact on our resources. I'm joined today by the monitoring officers for each of these organisations who can answer any questions that you may have, and I'd like to take this opportunity to thank the monitoring officers and the organisations themselves for all their hard work over the past year. Again, turning back to the recommendations, they are the same as the ones you had for the previous report, and as I said, we're happy to take any questions. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor was going to give you... thanks, Sally. Can I ask, the report says that the decreasing the present level of funding would directly affect the services that the LGBT Youth Scotland could provide. Is it understood what services specifically would be likely to be impacted on with this?
If I could ask Michelle, probably the best place to come in on that one, Michelle.
Yeah, thanks for your question. Yeah, LGBT Youth Scotland provide a service within Falkirk for young people, really to realise that vision that Scotland's the best place to go up, and if we extend that, they'd like that for Falkirk as well. And they aim to provide quality youth work, activities that promote health and wellbeing. The range of activities is not just their weekly meetings or their access to connecting with other young people across Scotland, particularly sort of central and north, and I've outlined in the appendix some of the projects that provide that opportunity. But it's also the sort of community-based asset coaching opportunities that exist that provide invaluable support. I've detailed their examples of supporting young people to report hate crimes, supporting young people to report or get support from rape crisis centres. They also provide support with independent living for young people. Some of that is obviously linked to poverty, and they are supporting people in schools and other organisations within the Falkirk area to think about how they incorporate the values or make way on their journey towards the LGBT Charter. So there's significant input from LGBT youth that we would lose if it was not continued.
Thanks very much for that. Is there anyone else? Any questions? Appendix 1. Councillor Binney, was it Appendix 1 you were looking to speak to?
It's actually, no, sorry, it's Appendix 2, sorry.
2. Okay then, if there's nothing else in Appendix 1, we'll move on to Appendix 2. Councillor Binney.
Thank you. I note the report states that Falkirk Council provides £38,000 funding to Macmillan Money Matters to provide benefits, advice, etc. to people with a cancer diagnosis. Does the monitoring officer believe that these services that could be incorporated within Citizens Advice Bureau, as we're all trying to streamline services and amalgamate and stop any overlaps, but still provide quality services? Thank you.
Thanks for the question. I think it's fair to say that the Macmillan Money Matters project is part of a wider Forth Valley project, and it's the hospitals and Stirling Council and ourselves that are paying into that project. And if the project was to change in terms of going to the CAB or into Falkirk Council, then the Health Board have already said that they would withdraw their funding for, and as with Stirling Council. At the moment, you will see that although Falkirk Council pay in 38,000, we're actually getting 1.6 officers for that money, which you're not even going to pay for one officer at that grade had it gone to Citizens Advice. So in real terms, the Health Board and Stirling Council are subsidising the service for the Falkirk Council area, because you'll actually see that Falkirk Council is getting 55% of the service from that project. So in short, I think the project needs to sit where it is as part of the greater Forth Valley wide hospital, and that hospital also gives us access quicker into those patients. And you'll see the target was 400 for this year, and in fact they saw 505, and that's people at an early stage of diagnosis. Now, unfortunately, still half of them were DS 1500, where death was reasonably expected within 6 months. So it's critical that we see these people as fast as we can, and getting access at the hospital certainly achieves that. Hope that answers your question.
It certainly is. Thank you for explaining that very well. Thank you.
Thank you, George. Thank you, Councillor Binney. Appendix 3, page 91, anyone? Move on. Appendix 4. Gordon.
I was actually just going to ask about the possibility of Stirling Council stopping subsidising, but Mr. Paul has very adequately answered that. So thank you for that.
Okay, amazing. Thanks. Okay. Councillor Balfour.
Yeah, I can just go back to Appendix 3. Let me just see here. I've lost a bit now. They said there's been no much change in the take up of advice for veterans. I just wondered, this has been going on for a wee while, so I just wondered why there's no really been any improvement, why there's still such a demand for support for veterans.
So I think you jumped onto Appendix 4 there.
No, it's 3, I think. Is it? Yeah, Appendix 3.
Is it 3? Okay, sorry, that's veterans one, so I'll take that one.
Aye.
The service has been relatively stable. It is the numbers coming through, although they've kind of declined slightly. There's a general kind of need out there for people who present. And I think one of the issues that's there is that a lot of time there needs to be some kind of more time spent with the individuals to get to the point where you can actually provide a kind of level of support to help get an understanding of what kind of support they need and get to that point, because there's a need to build up a relationship first. There's a lot of distrust with the people, and it's the time taken to get to that point so that you can then start working on kind of identifying solutions and identifying support that kind of helps kind of maintain the need that's there, but also limits the amount of people that can be seen with the time that we've got.
Okay, so you say it's sort of building up a rapport, if you like, over an amount of time. So is it more new people coming in looking for advice, or is it like ongoing returning people?
This is the numbers only count the individual once. So although they may return over the course of a year, as the kind of relationship builds up and they start to work through their issues, that's only counted once. Right.
Is there any way we could maybe get an idea of returns, if you like, just to get a sort of a fuller picture of the work that's been carried out? Because if it's only getting recorded once, then we don't know about all the other work, returning work, if you know what I mean.
Yeah, I can take that back to the service and look at how they where they flag up and where they do the counts, and that it should be possible. I'll take that back.
Yeah, okay. It'd be good to find out just all the additional work that they're doing as well, that isn't kind of flagged up. Okay, right, thanks for that.
Okay, thank you, Ewan. Thank you, Deputy Provost. Any other questions on poverty and equality? No. Okay, thank you. We'll move on to item 6. Sorry, Michael. Yep.
Yes, thank you, Chair. This report provides information under the following the public pound arrangements for the period 1st of April 22 to end of March 23 for the Falkirk Towns Limited organisation, which is the Business Improvement District organisation within Falkirk, and the Safer Streets Initiative, which incorporates both taxi marshalling and Safe Base. The committee is asked to note the combined reports for both Falkirk Towns Limited, the bid company, and the Safer Streets Initiative, and acknowledge the progress by the organisation in meeting these priorities. In consideration, the bid operates within the town centre of Falkirk. It represents about 659 eligible properties who contribute to the bid through a rates levy on their property. That equates to approximately £800,000 of income for Falkirk Towns Limited, the bid company, to work with the businesses to make improvements into the town centre and the fabric of the town centre. At 5.3, you'll see the range, diverse range of activities that the Falkirk Towns Limited are involved in to make sure we have a vibrant town centre and make sure that the town centre is welcoming for tourists and for the community at large. There are 2 monitoring reports contained within Appendix 1 and Appendix 2, one very much focusing on Falkirk Towns Limited themselves and their activities in the previous year, and the second monitoring report is very much focusing on the taxi marshalling and Safe Base initiatives that have been carried out over a number of years. And I'm joined by my colleague Keir Stevenson, and we're happy to take any questions related to this report. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Michael. Is there anyone? Sorry, Councillor Edmund.
Just one thing you were saying that about the levy creates an income of about £800,000 a year, but the collection rate's only 82% just now. So we're looking at £656,000 for the year. So we'll get £140 something shortfall. What sort of impact do you imagine that's going to have on the service overall?
Yes, thank you, Councillor Edmund. Absolutely, the bid worked very hard working with our rates collection people to ensure that those who are part of the bid pay their bid levy. There will be a number of organisations who default on that, and we do our very best to work with them to understand some of the challenges they're facing as a business, because you appreciate how difficult it is to operate on our high streets today. So there will be those who default, and we work very closely with them to see how we can support them to ensure they are successful and they are able to pay that bid levy towards it. But you're absolutely right that the potential is £800,000, but the bid worked very hard with our rates people to achieve that, and it does impact upon the amount of services and activity that the bid can deliver across the Falkirk town.
So is it my kind of first thing that looking at would be there's businesses in the town centres closed down, so there's less businesses here. But for what you're saying, there's businesses there that don't want to pay for it. Is the main thing, or is it business, or is it a combination of the two? Or?
It's a combination of the two. More likely businesses that have defaulted because they're no longer trading. So it's more that the case than those who are not willing to pay, just to be clear. Yeah, it's much more those who have failed as a business on a high street, which we do, unfortunately, we do see often.
Yeah, it's happening all too often. And then just on page 123, it was the report states that £10,000 funding to the Safe Base operation has been removed. Myself and Councillor Steinbank, we visited that. It was last year now, but it was a really worthwhile thing. And how do you think that'll impact services moving forward?
Yes, thank you, Councillor. We do appreciate that we have a challenging financial situation within a local authority. We had to look at all aspects of our spend, working with the bid. So we provide funding, as outlined in the monitoring report, to the bid to allocate that to various different activities. And you're right to point out that £10,000 was taken from that budget allocated to Falkirk Towns Limited. That was an executive decision back in February of this year. We do believe that the charity and the emergency services are working very closely together to try and ensure there's still a level of service for the community within a town centre. But I can't deny that, with reduced budgets, that will have an impact on the scale of that intervention.
Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Redmond. Councillor Binney.
Yes, thank you. I know you mentioned quite a lot about the work of the street ambassador, and I really welcome that because they make Falkirk safe and secure. And also I've witnessed actually myself the street support to many of the shoppers that come into Falkirk, and obviously the signposts many other people in Falkirk. Can you confirm, I know this report is only up to March 2023, but can you confirm, I mean, you mentioned the street ambassador a lot in this report, we still have a street ambassador. I was led to believe, though I might be wrong, this lady left in March 23, which is at the end of the report. So can you confirm that we still have a street ambassador in Falkirk Town Centre? Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. Could I defer that to Keir, please?
Yeah, thanks, Councillor Binney. Keir Stevenson, Economic Development Manager. So, yes, you're correct. The Street Ambassador, after 17 years, left. Falkirk Delivers at the end of March, but what Falkirk Delivers did is they've incorporated that role with the handyman. So it's a split role now, working 37.5 hours a week. So it's a combined role between the Street Ambassador activities that were previously carried out and the handyman duties.
So you're saying to me the handyman, is he full-time now in Falkirk Town Centre?
Yeah, it's a full-time position, but it incorporates the role of the Street Ambassador and the handyman.
Okay, right, thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Binney. Anyone else, any other questions on? Sorry.
Convener.
Gordon.
Thanks. I thank you for the information regarding the bid. And the answer that Councillor Redmond got there regarding the 82% of the collection rate, amounting to 656,000. Has there been any calculations done regarding the redevelopment of Falkirk Town Centre, given that we will be losing some of the businesses there? Well, how is that, and how will that affect it?
Yes, thank you, Councillor Forrest. Clearly, the acquisition of Callendar Square for our ambitious town hall and headquarters is progressing. Clearly, that requires the removal, the closure of a number of businesses contained within Callendar Square, and the potential the demolition of that particular facility. So there will absolutely be an element of churn and a period of time when there will be a reduced rates, rate amount of money coming into the bid. Obviously, that will be replaced by our new town hall, and that will continue. So yes, there will be a reduction in the bid levy received by Falkirk Towns Limited during that churn period. but we have seen, we have seen real challenges with Callendar Square in terms of its occupancy and a number of businesses declining in any case. So I think it's important that we move as quickly as possible to deliver a new town hall to then continue to pay the bid levy to allow the Falkirk Towns Limited to continue their good work.
Thank you for that. Just as a wee add-on, I take it that as many of the properties that are having to be displaced from Callendar Square, we will try and get them into other accommodation round about the town centre that's currently lying empty.
Thank you, Councillor Forrest. Absolutely. Our asset management team have been working very closely with the owners of Callendar Square and in particular the businesses that are contained within it to do our very best to see how we could accommodate them in the local environment and the town centre in particular.
Thank you very much for that. It's really good to hear. Thank you.
Thank you, Gordon. Any other questions on? No. Right. We'll move on to agenda item 7, which is Falkirk Health and Social Care Partnerships. Patricia.
Thank you, convener. The report that you see in front of you is the update on the performance of Falkirk Health and Social Care Partnership, which covers our progress since the last update to the Scrutiny Committee in November of last year. There are a number of appendices to the report, including the annual assurance statements, the internal audit assurance report, the audited accounts, the annual performance report, the IGB performance monitoring report, our external inspection reports, and an update on progress with the Alcohol and Drug Partnership in relation to the MAT standards. So there's a comprehensive set of papers. Just want to highlight that we also provide every 6-month updates formally to the council as well as to the health board, and of course our regular reporting to the integration joint board. I'm joined today by my colleagues, the Chief Finance Officer, the heads of integration and our senior service manager here, who are here to answer your questions that you may have. I'd like to particularly draw your attention to Appendix 3, which is our annual performance report for 2022 to 23. It's the same financial year that all of the reports cover. And it is a comprehensive report, including some case studies in the progress that the partnership has made with its community partners and other partners to deliver on the IGB's outcomes. The report is set out to cover our local and national outcomes for health and wellbeing. We also have sections on our workforce, our communication and engagement strategies, our partnerships, focus on equalities and sustainability, of course, our financial performance and best value, also our governance and performance. There are some particular developments I want to draw your attention to. The rollout of our Hospital from Home partnership, which is a partnership with several of our third sector organisations to organise and provide wraparound support to support people to be discharged from hospital, but also support for them through linking them into things like food chain and local services to support those people to remain at home. We also launched in that financial year our Health and Equalities Fund, which was over £750,000 of investment in local community-based activities to address health inequalities. We've also reviewed our strategic plan and developed a whole range of new initiatives which are detailed within the report. I'm happy to take any questions, as are my colleagues who are here. Thank you.
Thank you for that report. Sorry. Oh, yeah. Councillor Balfour.
Thanks, Convener. Yeah, just on pages 135, 136. I notice in the list there most of the grades are either very good or excellent. But on page 135, MEX has got 2 there that are just good. Can you explain why that is, and what, if any, initiatives are going to be in place to try and improve that?
Thank you. I don't know who wants to answer that, colleagues. Martin? Thanks.
Yeah. In terms of the mix grades, we are doing some work looking at the operating model for mix at the minute, so we would hope to see that improve. There has recently also been a change in management in terms of mix, and we went from having a part-time manager at the time of that inspection to now having 2 managers in place, so we're hoping to see service improvements in that area. Although the service was rated good, I think you're right, there's still room for expansion in terms of that grade, and we're working through that just now. So hopefully the next time we report, you will see improvement in that area. And we are reviewing that whole model around mix in terms of how it responds to service users, but also from the point of assessment. So we're reviewing the service from start to finish. Hopefully you'll see improvements in coming months.
Thank you. I think
thanks for that.
Thank you, Martin.
Could I just come in on that as well?
Certainly.
With any inspection, we would do an improvement plan around any areas that have been highlighted within the plan, and that is then reviewed by management, but also by the care inspector on the next visit. We've also been doing quite a considerable piece of work more recently that Gail has been leading on the whole out of hours provision across health and social care, and how we can better integrate out of hours GP services, the likes of MEX, care at home, district nursing. So that's a significant piece of work which, once it's completed, should see improvements across that whole out of hours provision, which can be a challenge, lead to unnecessary hospital admissions and poor outcomes for people. So it's part of a broader area of work as well. Thank you.
Thank you, Patricia. Gail, you will want to come in there?
Yeah, just to add to what colleagues have said, we've also got our clinical and care governance management group that we've established during the last year, and that takes a particular focus in terms of helping to support improvement of quality of care services. So one of the things that group looks at is the inspections that are undertaken externally and seeks assurance around the improvement actions that are being undertaken by the services.
Thank you.
Thanks for
that. Councillor Binney.
Thank you, convener. It's probably a question for Mrs. Cassidy. It's on Appendix 4. Do you have any immediate and priority areas of concerns with regard to key performance issues outlined in the IJB performance monitoring report, and ones that you want to act on immediately? So I would highlight that this is the report from 22-23. So as you would expect, we focus our activity immediately as we see any performance slipping. So some of the particular areas are around delays in discharge, length of stay in hospital, admissions to hospital as well. You'll see that we're above our benchmarking framework in the national levels in regard to those. So currently, we're doing a piece of really joined up work with the whole system, including our colleagues in the acute hospital and also our broader community-based health and social care, to look at completely resetting the system, to see and explore ways that we can improve pathways for people, but particularly to prevent admissions into hospital if they're not clinically required, but also how we can speed up the processes for people once they're clinically ready for discharge, that we've discharge planning in place from the day they're admitted, that we're man-marking every patient that's in the hospital with colleagues to make sure we have plans in place and capacity to support them within our community, whether that's bed-based care or whether it's support at home through the variety of our allied health professionals, our reablement and care at home services. A key area around that is really us understanding across the system what capacity we need in terms of care. We've increased our provision of care at home significantly by over 1,300 hours a week since June this year, and that was around also on the back of a 40% increase in the previous 18 months. So we're significantly increasing our care provision. We've been remodelling our care at home beds within the council-run care homes. Cunningham House, you may be aware, we did a significant piece of work in 22-23 to look at reprofiling that service to provide dedicated rehabilitation within that care home. So that was a shift away from long-term care beds into a full rehabilitation programme there, which has really helped people who still need some rehab, but they need more intensive rehab with physio, etc., within a bed-based environment. What a piece of work that we're just developing a tender for at the moment is really looking at a review of the community bed-based care across Falkirk to identify what capacity and what mix of provision we need. So currently we've got some delays waiting for long-term care, so we need to be sure we're getting the balance between the interim beds that we put in place and respond to the pressures, the post-COVID pressures, and actually the availability of those same beds within a long-term care provision. So there's a very complex system that we have to have all of the plates spinning at the one time, but really focused across the whole system and within the partnership on improving performance across a number of those indicators. So I hope that gives you some assurance and hopefully confidence that we're doing quite significant pieces of work to try and resolve what is at times a very complex situation. Thank you. Thank you. That was a very detailed and measured and proactive response. Thanks very much again. Thank you. Thank you.
Any other questions? Falkirk's performing below the national average in 7 of the 11 indicators in the local government benchmarking framework. How confident are you, Patricia, in the data comparisons in the LGBF are accurate reflections? It appears local authorities can vary significantly, and Falkirk on occasion is an outlier.
I think we have to trust the local benchmarking framework in terms of the data that is drawn. A lot of our data goes through quality assurance with Public Health Scotland. I think some of our challenges are around, as I've said, the length of stay in the hospital. The number of admissions appears to be higher than other areas, and our performance around delays in discharge as well. And those are all areas of significant investment and focus. We're still trying to understand locally and nationally what the impact of COVID is. So we've increased our provision over the last 18 months. There's fewer people turning up at hospital, but they're having people who are being admitted appear to be more complex. They're having a much longer length of stay. And that then means that there isn't the flow in the hospital and the availability of beds for new admissions. So, for example, Forth Valley has had a number of contingency beds open quite frequently over the last 2 years, and we're part of a programme just now to try and reduce that and to do that whole system reset, as I described in response to Councillor Binney. I don't know if colleagues, if Suzanne, if you've got anything to add in relation to that performance. Thanks.
Thank you. Thanks. I would probably just add as well that the local government benchmarking framework is one of a range of sort of performance measures that we look at. So in addition to that data that we analyse, and we also within that report look at how we compare against our benchmarking partners, we also have a comprehensive report that goes to the board on a regular basis around our data. So it's one suite of indicators that we look at, and we also just do take into account there may be variances and try to understand what those might be in terms of the context that we set out in the report. I hope that sort of answers additionally.
Thanks very much, both of you, for that. Councillor Balfour.
Thanks, Kenny there. Yeah, just page 138, 139. I can see that the states for 2022 to 23 has went from red to amber for MAT 1. Most of them are still amber or provisional amber, if you can maybe explain what it means by provisional amber, and also what, I mean, it says further down that they're working on the implementation of the MAT standards to make some changes. If you can maybe explain what changes have been made and when you would expect to see some improvement.
Martin could answer that as the chair of the ADP. Thanks.
Yep, thanks for that. In terms of the MAT standards, some of the standards are actually new standards, which is why you'll see 5 of the standards don't actually have any benchmarking for last year. They added to the MAT standards and increased them from 5 to 10 recently. So work is progressing in relation to all those standards. The provisional ranking is, we've submitted a self-assessment to Scottish Government and they've come back with their RAG status, but that still needs to be confirmed officially. But early indications are that they've accepted those ratings. In terms of the work that we're progressing, it's actually a lot of system-wide work across the whole sector that we need to take forward, because the MAT standards aren't just something that services need to implement. It's actually about a whole redesign of all our services to ensure that people can access treatment on day one. Our current model is people tend to join a waiting list, and then when they reach a priority, they're assessed and then they will enter into treatment. So the MAT standards are actually driving forward a radical overhaul of services so that people can turn up on day one, they can access that assessment and they can leave in treatment. And that treatment will follow the person as long as the person considers they need it, which is a real shift from the current model, which will see people come into services until those services think people no longer require them, and then they will discharge them. There are lots of areas of work that we're having to take forward. One of the areas we're looking at is the current third sector contract that we have across the whole of Forth Valley, which is why the report highlights we're taking some work forward with our partners in Clackmannanshire and Stirling to really design the whole system. There are significant challenges in terms of recruitment. We are seeing recruitment challenges within the NHS treatment services and within the third sector areas. So whilst we're undertaking significant work to progress to green, we are still struggling to recruit to some posts. The work we have, the work we have in train, we anticipate it will be embedded in time for the go live of the MAT standards in a year's time. But that work will continue to progress. There are regular updates provided to the IGB in relation to progress, and the Chief Officers Group. I'd be happy to share progress with elected members that have an interest in this work. But work is progressing, but it does affect the whole sector, and that's why we're at amber just now. To say one of the real positives for Falkirk is all our partners seem to be really keen to implement the standards, so we haven't seen any pushback in terms of that recognising a need for change in terms of how we operate. It did take a while for actually people to recognise there was a whole change in the whole system of how we operate. And I think early on, actually, people thought it was a kind of an additional bit of work to go alongside our existing work patterns. But actually, as I said, it's a complete overhaul of drug treatment services, and people that we're working with have really recognised that now and are starting to make progress, which is why you will see some areas have moved from red to amber, because there's that acknowledgement that actually it's the right thing to do, and we're working to achieve it within the timeframes. Hopefully that gives you the answer. Thanks.
Yeah, that was very good. Yeah. It sounds like an awful lot of work, but essential and much needed work. So it'll be good to see some improvement moving forward. So thanks for getting all that work started off and done. Thanks.
Thanks, Martin. Now, any other questions on health and social care? No. That's us then. So are we happy to accept the report?
Agreed.
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 Okay, thank you. Okay.
Thank you.
Okay, thanks very much, everybody, for coming today, giving up of your time. and have a lovely afternoon. Speak to you all at some time in the future. Bye just now.
Thank you.